Hey everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to my channel, and it is the end of the day, so I'm a greasy mess. It is 90 degrees in Indiana right now, and I just came in from watering my plants because I finally have my own garden, which I'm excited about, and I have some beautiful flowers in my yard, so I had to go out and water them. So I'm hot and sweaty, but I had to jump on today and tell you guys about the books that I just finished reading. As you can tell from the title, these are by far the best books I have read this year. And I actually think I'm going to put them on my list of the best books I've read of all time because I'm so in love with them and I cannot wait to tell you all about them. So I'm going to start this off by a general review that's kind of non-spoilerish as much as possible. And then the last half of this video is going to be full on spoilers. So I will let you know when we get there. And this will probably be a longer video because I'm going to cover a lot of topics and a lot of information about these books. So just a little fair warning as we go in. All right, guys. So the two books I read were Royal Games by T.K. Leigh, and the follow-up to that was Tangled Games by T.K. Leigh. I have never read this author's books before. I was recommended them in a BookBub email. For those of you who are not familiar, BookBub is like this book site where you can get emails from them personalized by what genres you like to read, and they will send you a daily email that has free books, reduced books, and books that are on sale, so that you have a list of, books that you can purchase or download for free. And I get a lot of my TBR list from these books. So I was recommended Royal Games, and those of you who know me know that I love any books that have to do with royalty. I'm obsessed with like royalty, prince and princesses type thing. So as soon as I read the synopsis, I had to purchase it because it's a royalty thing and I just love that stuff. I eat that stuff up. So I jumped into this book not really knowing what to expect because, again, I've never read this author, and holy smokes, you guys, she blew me away, and I absolutely love these books, like so much. So the book starts off with Nora, and the man in the book is Anderson, but the book starts off with Nora and her friends are throwing her a divorce party because it turns out that her husband was cheating on her with a man and their relationship was fake the whole time. He was really using her as a cover because he didn't want to come out to his family. And so her friends are throwing her this really adorable, full-fledged divorce party, including like party favors and a cake that has a bride killing her husband or kicking him off the cake or something like that. I don't remember what that was, and gifts and the whole nine. And it's really adorable. And I hope that I had friends that would throw me a divorce party like this if they needed to, because it was really cute. And they end up giving her a gift, and the gift is to take a divorcecation, which is also really cute. And the divorcecation they send her on is to travel Route 66. Now, you don't know this in the first chapter, but you learn it pretty quickly afterwards that traveling Route 66 is really important to Nora. I will explain the reasons why in my spoilery section, but the reason this is important to her is because she has a loved one who passed away and they were supposed to take that trip together. And so her friends gifting her this Route 66 trip is really meaningful to her. And there's a lot of more loaded meaning behind it than what you realize at first. So while she's taking this divorcecation down Route 66, she meets Anderson. And what she doesn't know at the time is that Anderson is taking this Route 66 trip for a totally different reason. Anderson is also dealing with a personal struggle that is health related, and that is why he's taking this trip, which again, I will go into in the spoilery section. And they keep running into each other along Route 66 and at one point just decide to take the trip together. So that's how they meet each other and that's how you see their relationship blossom. But she doesn't know at the time that Anderson is, the Prince of Belmont, and his name is Gabriel, actually. So it's a really, emotional read. It sounds like it would just be like, when I first picked it up, it sounded like it would be kind of a lighthearted, secret prince, and she doesn't know it, very like Prince and Me movie type thing, but it's actually not. And when you get into the nitty-gritty of this book, this was a really emotional read that has a lot of triggers in it for grief, the loss of a loved one, miscarriage, health issues, crappy abusive parents, that kind of thing. And you don't expect that when you first jump into it, but this was such an emotional roller coaster read, and it was such a good book. Because it's a romance novel, I don't think I'm ruining anything by telling you guys that they end up together at the end, because duh, that's why we read romance novels, right? We like the happy ending. And Tangled Games, which is the second book I read, is the continuation of Nora and Anderson's story, but this is of them going back to Belmont and being introduced to the royal family and kind of overcoming all those challenges of her marrying the future king of a country. So it was really interesting to watch that whole process. It's a little bit of a slower book than Royal Games, and the first third of the book was actually pretty slow and boring, I thought. But then once it gets into the real meat of the story, it picks up and it's a fast-paced book after that, and it's really good. And I have to tell you, that second book made me cry almost as many times as the first book did. Very emotional books, and I love them. One thing I did not know at the time was that this was part of a series. I didn't even read that. I just read the synopsis from BookBub. It sounded interesting, so I bought it. And it's actually part of a series called the Dating Games series. So I want to go back and read these because I figure if I loved these two books this much, I probably will love the previous books. And I'm really impressed with TK Leigh's writing. So I'm going to leave a link to her website below so that you can check out not only these books, but any of her other books that she's written. And I'm in love with these. I actually really have put them on my wish list. I have a wish list going on my Amazon page. I have it linked below in case anybody's really bored and wants to read it or wants to look at what I'm reading. But these are books that I read them and I love them to the point where I want to buy physical copies of these to put in my future library. As you guys know, I want to create a library in my house, and these are physical books I'm going to put in my library. And TK Leigh just made my list of physical books that are going in my library. So congratulations. I'm just kidding. I'm sure she doesn't care. But anyway, I love them. I'm so excited. And I definitely recommend checking them out. Now, to really get into why this book got me, holy crap, it got me. I'm going to have to go into spoilers. So this is where the spoiler section starts. So if you don't want spoilers, or if you want to read the books, please exit now. I love you. I will see you later. And if you do decide to read these books, or if you already have read them, then, follow along with me. If you go read them, come back and watch this half of the video, and we can discuss in more detail. But I am in love with these, so let's get into the spoilers. All right, so in Royal Games, the reason why Route 66 is so important to Nora is because previously, prior to marrying Jeremy, who's the guy she's divorcing at the beginning of the book, she was engaged to a man named Hunter, and her and Hunter had one of those all-encompassing true love stories. They were engaged. She was pregnant at the time, and they were involved in a car accident. In this car accident, Hunter was killed, and her baby ended up dying as well. She ended up having to carry the baby for a few weeks and go through labor and everything, knowing that she would give birth to a child that had passed on already, which is just horrible and so hard. I can't imagine. I mean, I know women do it every day, but I can't imagine the emotional trauma of having to give birth to a child you know that you won't get to take home with you, how horrible that would be. So this whole thing is just traumatizing to her. And Jeremy isn't really someone that she ever loved. He's almost this guy that she married really to, I don't want to deal with the grieving process, so I'm going to marry someone else and just move on so I don't have to actually grieve. And so the divorce, even though it's a difficult thing for her, it's not that emotional because she realizes pretty quickly, I didn't love Jeremy anyway. I was trying to move past the loss of Hunter and not grieve. So her trip to Route 66 was a trip that her and Hunter were supposed to take after they were married. And they had a list of stops along the route they were going to take, different landmarks and things they wanted to see. So she's actually taking this trip and she's spreading his ashes at all of the stops that they made on their list. So it's really emotional to watch her finally grieve him by spreading his ashes along the trip. And then for Prince Gabriel of Belmont, who we know as Anderson in the book, he is actually on the same trip for totally unrelated reason, but he is also mourning the death of a loved one. His fiancée, 6 years ago or whatever, died of a heart attack. She was an athlete. It was an undiagnosed condition from childhood that no one knew about. And she ended up having a heart attack in her volleyball tournament. And then on top of that, Anderson has been diagnosed with MS. And he has been told that, you know, it won't take very long. You won't be able to drive. You won't be able to care for yourself. And so he's kind of taking this trip as a one last hurrah trip that he can drive himself before his health turns and he's not able to do something like that. So he's dealing with his own grief, his own emotional trauma of having this illness that he is scared of. And they meet each other. And so they meet each other at this like totally inopportune time where no one was planning on a relationship, right? But they're both taking pretty much the same trip down Route 66. So they keep running into each other. And at some point they're like, well, we keep running into each other, so let's just do this trip together. And during that process, that's how their relationship kind of blooms and forms and becomes, you know, the relationship that it is. The major spoiler that I'm about to give is what absolutely sold me on this book. If it wasn't emotional enough already to have two people going through grief and personal trauma and all the things that kind of go along with this book so far, the author just added in one more real big, like, I'm gonna rock your world. And it is that Hunter's crash was caused by Anderson. That was my face too. That face you're making, that was my face. That was my face. And I was like, how? How is that even possible? Now, I'm not going to spoil it too far, but let's just say that the crash was caused by a health issue. At the time, it was a deserted road. By the time the police came out, they didn't know what caused Hunter to go off the road, but it was a medical issue that Anderson had from his MS that caused him to swerve into the opposite lane. Hunter did an oh no to get out of the way and crash the car. And they don't know this at first because they don't know who caused who caused Hunter's crash. No, the police tried to research, but nobody knew what caused the crash. And Anderson, because of him blacking out and being dizzy and all this stuff from his condition, has no idea that he caused a crash. So they have no idea. It isn't until they meet each other and he's fallen in love with her that he puts the puzzle pieces together in his head. And his, I don't know if it's his bodyguard, security team, whoever the PR guy, whoever the dude is who follows him around all the time, he ends up confirming his suspicion and saying, yes, sir, you actually are the person who caused this accident that killed her fiance and her baby. And it's such a huge twist. And I have to be honest with you, I don't know that I would have been the better person because she's able to work through all of this. And at the end, they end up together. But I don't know that I would have been like, oh, I love you. By the way, you killed my fiance and my baby, and you have a medical condition that's going to suck down the road, and you're the prince of a European country. Let's get married. Like, I don't know that I would have been that better person. And this book just really, it made me cry, like watching him go through the emotions, watching her go through the emotions, watching them, I mean, waterworks. And it takes a lot to make me cry in a book, but this book made me cry. So obviously, romance novel, they all end up together at the end. But Tangled Games is the continuation of their story. This is them going back to Belmont and her meeting his family and learning about, like, what does royal life actually look like for him? And he's the future king, and how, you know, it kind of reminded me a lot of like the whole Harry Meghan thing. And the funny thing was that Harry and Meghan are actually mentioned in the book. So this book must have been written after they were like already a couple or together or whatever. But it's very much like this American divorced woman, and there happens to be this vote going on in the country, like a referendum of some sort, where the people are saying we don't want a monarchy anymore, so we want to get rid of the royal family. So him marrying this like divorced American woman is like the worst possible time ever to be causing any kind of scandal in the royal family. And so just watching her like having to prove herself to his family. And then the second thing that kind of happens here is that his MS gets worse in this book. So you see him start to have more health issues here. And kind of the culmination in this book, the big like high climactic point of this book is when his health is taking a turn. her mother, her piece of crap mother, who keeps asking her for money and she refuses because her mom's a piece of poo, decides to give an interview and give all these lies to the media. So there comes this point where they step away from each other. She steps away because of all the drama her mom caused, and he steps away because of his health issues. And I love the conversation that they have where they actually have a conversation about, I don't want you to have to take care of me. You know, like, I know you love me, but what happens when you're no longer my wife and you're my caretaker? What happens when I can't dress myself and I can't feed myself and I can't, you know, take care of you? What happens when my MS becomes who I am and you have to be the one to take care of me? Like, that's a valid question, because how many people stand up and do their wedding vows and say, in sickness and in health till death do us part, but then when the going gets tough and somebody really does get sick, they don't stick around, right? Like, I have a lot of friends, unfortunately, who have divorced when health problems popped up. And that's sad, but it's a valid issue that many married people go through. And to see that conversation between them was beautiful, and to see them overcome all of the, like, obstacles in their way. Obviously, it's a romance novel, so you know it all works out in the end. But again, this book was an emotional roller coaster. It was like, we're happy, then we're sad, then we're happy, then there's a bombshell, then we're sad, then we're happy again, there's another bombshell. I mean, it was a total emotional roller coaster. And again, I cried in both books multiple times. It is such a beautiful love story. And what I love about this is, what I really love about books like this is it's real life. Because we all love, like, watching the Disney movies, right? And everything just works out in the end. But the truth is, life isn't like that. Life is messy, life is hard, and people are going to come with baggage. Baggage comes in all forms. And so I love that this is a real couple with real issues and real trauma that they're having to work through. Like, I just think that this author did an amazing job of making you feel This author did a good job of making you feel what the characters were feeling, and I was just blown away by how well written this was. So I'm really looking forward to checking out more of her work, because I figure if you can write these two books like this, then I can't wait to see what else you've written. They were really, really good. So again, I'm linking her website below. Please check her out. If you haven't read these and you actually sat through all my spoilers, make sure you do read them, because even if I spoiled, you won't get the emotions until you actually read and go through it with these characters. You will be blown away, and I love them so, so very much. So, best books I've read in 2021, and very much going on my best books of all time list. And it takes a lot to get there, but I'm super excited. All right, guys, if you have read these books, tell me what you thought. Did you love them as much as I did? And have you read the first books in the series? What did you think of those? Because I haven't read those yet, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, on to the next one. I might do a Tag Tuesday for the next one. We'll see. I'll be back on Tuesday. Talk to you later. Bye.